Yeah, this is not something I entirely expected. We have a PvT where NightMare is actually the player up against Cure. If I'm interpreting that right.
Uh-huh.
As we load into Romanticide LE. Once again, very familiar map. We're just here. In the top left-hand corner map, starting all the way in the top left-hand corner, we have the blue Protoss player coming out from the land of Korea. He is going to be representing Team NV. We have not Dream, but NightMare. Dream is actually on GGG.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Romanticide LE, we have the South Korean Terran. As you said, this guy, he is an ESL Open Cup champion, a many-time champion. He typically holds that standard for Terran players out there, but he is down in this series. It is Cure.
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough couple of weeks in ESL Open Cup Asia for Cure. Usually his runs have been put into an end pretty early on by Creator, or I believe last week it was actually Nice who took him out, or was it Haas?
It was one of the Protoss.
It was somebody, yeah. It was one or the other, but yeah, suffice to say, Cure has been struggling in the TVP matchup in the recent weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he has. I mean, to be fair, like, ESL Open Cup Asia is a really good practice against Protoss because we always talk about it. There are just so many of them. Kira doesn't have to worry about any other matchup, just TVP. and that's how he's been winning these ESL Open Cups, right? It's been off of his TVP. But more recently, as you said, we've seen like that come to we've seen Protoss players contest that quite a bit more, you know. Is that Cure maybe being a little bit stale with his style and players figuring him out? Is it just the Protoss players in general improving over time and working together to figure out how best to combat Terran? It's hard to say, but again, very impressive for a player like NightMare to take a game and be up in the series.
Yeah, it's definitely been a while since I've actually seen NightMare this deep into a bracket against players like Cure or Classic or Heroes Not Here, but yeah, against a lot of these other top tier pros, NightMare's definitely been a little bit inactive in 2021.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at
definitely.
least not on the same level as he was in 2020.
Yeah. I mean, he's been active, but yeah, he hasn't been, reaching those higher echelons. He's still working his way through. You know, just like players like Creator. You could argue that Creator, again, over the past couple of weeks, has really popped up, and we're kind of looking at him right now,
yeah,
like
Creator.
Exactly. It's towards the end of the year, but you know, it's still his year. And maybe NightMare, maybe he can show off here as well, right? Maybe he can start to blossom, you know, in the time of winter.
Is that how it works? I don't have seasons here.
That's how NightMares work.
Yeah, apparently.
There you go.
More of him in those winter months, but yeah, weren't quite able to see what happened in game number 1. But I mean, I have to imagine that Cure was doing his typical Cure thing, right? Going for being active on the map, trying to be everywhere at once, went for his drops and got a little bit stonewalled. That was kind of what Haas figured out against him last week, where if he just goes massive swarm toss, doesn't necessarily have to trade efficiently in the early game, so like he's able to keep his economy going, he'll eventually be able to overwhelm somebody like Cure.
Oh yeah,
I want to imagine NightMare did something similar, but
it's possible. I mean, the thing with Haas is, again, he's a very unique player. You know, people can try and emulate him, but you know, they can merely try.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh god. So yeah, I mean, NightMare, we can see that he's opening up with these Phoenixes just like we saw in the previous series. Of course, it was a different matchup, but he's relying on them. Of course, they have a lot of value here. They can pick off tanks, they can really slow down pushes, they can get that map control, and Cure has to be careful because, you know,
drops.
Yeah, he's going for those Ravens, and like he has to make sure he doesn't quite lose them, or the drop either.
Yeah, has Cure actually gone to the main base of NightMare yet?
He slipped in earlier. He was able to slip in a little bit.
Yeah, so at least he saw the starport. He's Yeah, building turrets right now. Anticipates an Oracle coming his way, but Phoenix Harass, if you don't have any anti-air, can still decimate a mineral line.
Yeah, exactly. They can just go for those gas mining drones if they want to, depending on how many pieces they are. They can just commit even further. Meanwhile, again, NightMare being a little bit greedy here. He's only working off of 3 gateways right now, and he's going straight into that robotics bay. Again, hoping that there isn't a big push and working immediately on that Colossus production.
Little does he know, that's exactly what Cure wants to do in TVP. Has definitely been that standard bearer for +1 timings in TVP.
That they are. I mean, we do have a recall all the way back home. Would have mind shots to go off, but only on 1 probe each.
Yeah, very fast reaction here from NightMare. Hellion trying to distract the army as best he can, but as we saw, the recall kind of doesn't care about that.
Yeah, NightMare, he defends beautifully. Meanwhile, we have another, this time double drop coming across the map. This is quite scary, especially if NightMare isn't able to catch it. Again, NightMare doesn't have a lot on the ground. He has 2 adepts, and that's kind of it. But it looks like the Colossus should just barely come out in time.
It should, but it needs to really hug a wall and make sure that that the Terran Bio doesn't jump on top of it. As you said, there just isn't much of a buffer. The Phoenixes are going across the map, so there's going to be even less DPS here.
Exactly, the Phoenixes, they reveal themselves. I feel like this is probably go time for Cure, and that's it. He immediately picks up and goes to the main.
Interesting. All right. Well, he knows that he doesn't have to worry about the Phoenixes trying to stonewall him from getting into that main base. Does have to worry about them here with this other drop. Cure, you gotta drop the load.
Oh no, he's over the rocks, and it looks like 1 medevac will go down. It will, but the double drop does go off in the main base, and he gets into the mineral line. The right
Yeah, if you can cancel advanced thermal lens, that is going to be massive. Look at him, he jumps right on top of that Colossus, stutter stepping till it's death. No buffer once again. These are slow zealots, and they're not doing much against the... There actually isn't a custom shell yet, but just, you know, the kiting on these Marines. Finally, the Phoenixes come home, but it is too late. Cure, he's got a lot of momentum. He knows that NightMare can't make any more Colossus.
Exactly, like this drop, it does get cleaned up, but these Marines, they served their purpose. They did so much damage. A couple of worker kills, more importantly, as you said, they got to kill that robotics bay. They even picked off a lone Colossus. That was insane. Sure, Cure lost like half a drop in the middle of the map as that was happening, but again, like acceptable losses compared to what he was able to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. These are one of those drops where I look at it and I'm like, why can't I do that in TVP? Why can't I be as good as Cure? Why can't I get as much value as Cure?
God, it was so decisive as well. As soon as he knew where the Phoenixes were, he was like, let's go time, you know, like let's pull the trigger immediately.
He's like, I'm not gonna worry about that third base. I know where the value's at. I know where's the moneymaker here for NightMare.
Yeah, it was amazing. Oh my god, and now this army is getting even larger. We have Vikings coming into play, and there are going to be plenty of them for the small amount of Colossus that there are. Only the second one just coming out here. And Cure...
And where's the anti-air?
Where is it? A handful of Stalkers, you know, the Phoenixes. A lot of them got shaved off. Now there's only 3 left.
What are 3 Phoenixes gonna do against Vikings? They're mechanical units!
True.
With a lot of health. And range.
Yeah, as they get pushed away by the Vikings. Thankfully, NightMare did scout the army, so he knows its position. He even confirms that with the pylon, he is now here at the third base, ready to meet him.
Oh, I love Curious in dead air here. Try to pick off those Colossus as they're exposed. Run by here for NightMare will be dealt with. Distracts the reinforcements by a little bit.
Oh my god. Yeah, we do have a massive Doom Drone going into the main base. Unfortunately, again, not a lot of Phoenixes to stop this. The army is out of position at the third, and he needs to be in the main.
That he does. Scan just confirmed that there is an opening here for Cure, and he lands the entire load. This is where all the tech and the production's at. And NightMare still has a ways to go. The Vikings, there's nothing to buffer for the Colossus when it comes to the Vikings. Really good feedback, so on the medevacs. Cure has to be so careful with when he stim packs. That was a very good purification over. but not quite as good compared to damage that Cure is getting. That Colossus! Oh, what is it doing?
Oh, the
Spotting
Colossus
block
goes
by the
down.
other
The second Colossus
Colossus!
could go down as well. It's so close, and it looks like it will go down. At the same time, the reinforcements of Cure hit the fourth base. That was a kill, not a cancel, and now he's gonna keep on going. Oh god!
Oh, Cure! Your mind was elsewhere, man! NightMare, the Vikings can land. They don't have to worry about a Colossus anymore.
They do not, but the Shrub Shot goes off. The Vikings, they dodge the shot. They pick up just in time.
Oh, man. I almost want Cure to get, what's it called? Smart Servos? The quick siege, quick up and down upgrade that no Terran player gets anymore. Just so he can play with those disruptors.
Oh,
it's like,
my god.
I can bait out those Novas.
I mean, mate, he doesn't even need it. He can do it without it, mate. That's how good Cure is. And, oh my god, a lot was done here. He killed the main. He reset the Colossus count. He got a kill in the fourth base as well. Even though his push was stopped, like, mate, he's just getting ready for round 2. Round 3 even. Like, he's up heavily in supply. The only thing he has to worry about are these disruptors.
Yeah, I feel like Cure, his push gets stopped every time after they get value. So... yeah, Cure's definitely just been trading very efficiently throughout this game. He does have to worry about NightMare's disrupt account, though. I'm really loving how, not necessarily conservative, but careful NightMare's being with these Purification Novas. He doesn't want to blow his load entirely.
Oh, yeah.
Just try to bait out these stims.
I mean, if he ever does, like, he's just gonna die. Like, he has to be so careful with them. Meanwhile, this is the third job coming in here. We have one lone Archon to stop it. That is not going to be enough. Ooh, but Cure doesn't risk it.
Yeah, he doesn't have a boost, so a couple of volleys from that Archon can actually shave off a lot of health from these medevacs. Very good use of choke point here for Cure. These ults will not get any value done in the defense. Archon gets picked off, and this poor Nexus. NightMare just wants to have a main base up and running. The main army is being distracted by the reinforcements. Will get stopped, but it is not going to be enough. GG. Cure evens out that series sideways 1-1. Giving us an ace match.
Wow, GG Cure, the multi-prong, the hyper-aggression from Cure all over the place, even towards the end there. He may have been losing, there may have been some disruptor shots going off and landing on his army, but he was picking off disruptor after disruptor, and NightMare just didn't have enough to defend at multiple places at once.
Yeah, that multi-pronged drop style is what I love to see from Cure, but what I like even more is seeing it work.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
As Haas and Creator will tell you.
Exactly. But yeah, that was really well done in the end. What I will say is that probably the biggest downfall is probably, like, it felt like a snowball effect early on. NightMare didn't have a lot of, like, scouting out on the map. He didn't have a lot of vision, and then once that first drop went through, it just didn't stop.
Absolutely. When you're going for a Robo Bay based composition like that, and I guess Protoss in general, you need your economy to be as booming as possible. Once a single base gets taken out, or even the workers of that base gets taken out, you essentially get hobbled in one leg. And with Cure, he is always looking to make sure you can't stand up on 2 feet.
Exactly.
Just steal your legs from under you.
Yep, NightMare, he was just sat on the ground the entire time. He couldn't stand up. And we'll see how game 3 will go. Again, unfortunately, we missed out on game number 1, so we don't really know what happened. We don't really know how NightMare was able to take it. You know, was it a proxy? Was it a cheesy style? Was it some more of what we saw, and he was actually able to make it work? More importantly, we don't know what map game 1 was on.
I'll base it entirely on that map. I like to imagine that NightMare basically did the same thing but made it work, right? Because he was, in that game we saw on Romanticide, still getting a lot done with what little he had. Very good Purification Novas. He definitely understood how to position his Colossus, at least on the map. When it came to his own bases, a bit of a different story. I have to imagine that on a different map, you know, something where the bases are less spread out, would have worked a bit better for him.
I would imagine so. And we'll see what happens here. Again, this is what I love about our Korean players. You know, they're not afraid of maps like Beckett. They're not afraid of maps like this. Ace match. It's going to be on Blackburn.
Mio Mike has spoiled Blackbird for me at this point. I have insane expectations for these two players now. It's like, all right, float your main right over to the gold, Cure, and meanwhile, NightMare, I'm gonna need you to like build your natural behind Cure's gold base. I have to imagine they have their heads screwed on a little tighter, though. NightMare and Cure. And speaking of NightMare and Cure, here we are now on Blackburn LE, the map where we're going to conclude this best of 3. That is NightMare versus Cure. In the bottom left-hand corner map, spawning all the way in the bottom left-hand corner, we have the blue Protoss player coming out from the land of Korea. He is going to be representing his brother SOS and creator here over on Team NV. He is not a dream, but NightMare.
Ooh, and spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Blackburn LE, we have the South Korean Terran player. He is red, tying up the series 1-1. This man is on Dragon Phoenix Gaming DPG. It is Cure.
Interesting pseudo proxy here from NightMare.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, this is normally something we expect more from Terran, right? They built their barracks outside their main base to try to psych out their opponents, and then they just float it back. NightMare saying, no, Protoss can do that too. It's just, you can't float a gateway, so, you know, at the very least, it's a forward reinforcing point.
Yeah, in a way.
Actually, I'm just trying to think this out. If Cure decides to go for an aggressive timing again, you know, Beckett Industries, it's a very good map for that. You want to funnel your units straight through that rush distance, straight through that rush path, right? NightMare is setting up behind that, so the possibility of getting a bit of a sandwich, it's still there. And of course, the main thing, trying to psych out Cure.
Yeah, but it's a really odd psych out IMO. Like, if we look, Cure went for an SCV scout, which makes sense, and I'm sure NightMare wanted that, but when he goes for the SCV scout, he sees the Nexus. So it's like, sure, he saw that there's no gateway, which is odd, but there's a Nexus, so there's no aggression.
And there's a cyber core too.
Yeah.
He clicked on the cyber core, so he knows that a gateway is out somewhere. So
yeah.
Huh.
It's interesting to say
that. He's even scouting. He doesn't even care.
And it's kind of working.
Oh wait, no,
God.
yeah, no, never mind.
Yeah.
I was gonna say he doesn't even care because he's not checking for proxies, but he did bring a lot of his SCVs to the natural base. A little bit of lost mining time. He is worried that something is coming his way and he needs to repair that bunker quick. Look at that! He can't even send the minerals in. All right, nicely done by NightMare, living up to his name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he assumed that there was, you know, gonna be some zealots and some adepts coming out here, but there was nothing at all. So in the end, the mind game worked for NightMare.
Huh, all right.
He's even double checking
some deals here.
Like, he was convinced that there was a proxy here.
Yeah. Again, not the biggest of deals in the world. You know, Cure can definitely recover from that lost mining time, but when you have two players who are, I mean, they're tied up, so I would say that they're pretty neck and neck in at least TVP. It can make a world of difference, you know, these small advantages that you get.
Oh yeah, mate, to have, like, what was that, 8 workers not mining for like 30 seconds or maybe 20 seconds, like that's impactful. Like that does affect the game, especially at the highest level of play where players want to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah, especially for a player like Cure who likes going for his +1 timings and whatnot. This is kind of forcing him to back away and reevaluate, right? He can't go for that +1 as quickly as humanly possible anymore. So now he has to make another decision, you know? How do I go for that anyway because it's powerful but not as impactful? And as we can see, he decides to go for a bit of a 3-1-1.
Yeah, exactly. Nice pick off on the initial Phoenix. As you were saying, mate, we have 3 Raxes, and I'm just quickly checking. NightMare did scout all 3 Raxes, so he knows about the strong bio push that's going to be coming his way. Ooh, and we'll see what he's going to have to defend. He helps to make a Void Ray. Interesting.
Huh. Well, Well, I guess against Medivacs, maybe you. I don't know. Medivac's a light unit, so they don't get a bonus. But like, yeah,
Yeah, it feels like he saw what's coming. He's like, I need as much damage as I can get. He's like, I just need all the DPS. So a Void Ray, I guess, will help a little bit. He's using what tech he has. The Robo only just now starts. He can't like rush out a Colossus or anything like that.
Well, even still, I guess you don't want to underestimate Void Rays as a Terran player. You know, Marines are what you want to be making, right? When you see your opponents going very heavily Stargate focused, that's Prismatic Alignment being popped. He's really worried about that Cyclone for some reason. But yeah, as a Terran player, as I was saying, you don't want to underestimate Void Rays. They don't have any bonuses against Marines since they're light units, but Marines don't have a lot of health to begin with.
This is very true. This is all facts. Meanwhile, Phoenixes do scout and they see the massive amount of Marines. I'm shocked that we have a second Void Ray coming out. Are we going to see a third? Is he going to not stop Void Ray production? That's what I'm curious about, to be honest.
Okay, he's opting for Immortals instead now, but I feel like that's just because he doesn't have a lot of gas to his name. This is something that happens every now and then in PvT, right? Where you get the Protoss player getting a bunch of Void Rays at the start and then trying to transition to carriers as quickly as possible to try to catch the Terran opponents off guard. But, you know, I feel like that's more of a ladder thing, right? That's something you find on the Diamond ladder, at least in my experience.
Yeah.
You don't really see it too much in a best of setting.
He's
like
making
this.
a third Void Ray. Like maybe he knows something that we don't. Again, like he needs, he knows the big bio push is coming. This is something that NightMare is aware of, and getting splash damage and getting something like charge would have been incredibly unrealistic because of how late his tech was. So again, just whatever units he can to try and survive. Is it going to be enough?
Yeah, it would have been ideal, but maybe not necessarily viable. As you said, no splash damage. These Marines really don't have too much to worry about. Thankfully for NightMare, though, 2 shield batteries. And that's making a world of difference right now for Cure. He does not want to push into that.
No, he does not. He's waiting for NightMare to maybe push out, maybe get a little bit impatient. You know, he has to be careful with these Phoenixes, and yeah, he's going to try and catch the army, but we have a couple of reinforcements on the way.
Oh, if they can get picked off. Oh, the Phoenixes weren't in position to get picked off. I was kind of rooting for them there, but yeah, a lot more reinforcements are coming down. We're getting to the point where Cure can just overwhelm this with, regardless of the shield batteries. Look at that concave. He's fighting through the shield. He's fighting through the overcharge. He doesn't even bother sniping it because he has that much DPS on his head. Very odd unit composition choice here for NightMare, and Cure is looking to take advantage of that.
That's 100%.
It, man.
You still to win. A GG gets called, and Cure just takes it.
Oh man, yeah, another one of those games from Cure where I look at it and I'm like, why can't my TVPs go like that? But yeah, I guess we can praise the macro and the timing there for Cure, but I really feel like that was more of NightMare, as you said, delaying his tech and leaving himself wide open and vulnerable against somebody like Cure who wants to hit you as fast as possible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to figure stuff out, because one, we had a Stargate opener from NightMare, right? So he was pumping out Phoenixes. He scouts. He's like, okay, there's a big buy push coming. What do I do? Would he have had enough time to get out Colossus if he had started a Robo then and there? Because if you remember, his Robo, he waited a little bit longer to get his Robo out. I think he made his first Void Ray first. Yeah. Would he have been able to get a Robotic Spay and a Colossus in time? It would have been close. And if he did, it would have only been one. Exactly. And I don't know if that was
yeah, and funneling all of his resources to get that one Colossus would also mean he won't have much of a buffer.
Yeah, and the other difficult thing about probably what affected his decision making is this is Blackburn, right? This isn't Romanticide. This isn't Oxide. The rush distance by ground is very short, so because of that, like maybe on a larger map he could try and get out that splash damage. On a much smaller map like this, it's so much more risky, so he probably wasn't feeling confident.
There's definitely a reason why this was the ace match
Yeah.
and not something that we saw at this first couple of and in the first couple of maps.
Mm, mm.
You have to wonder what the vetoes were then.
Yeah, yeah, I have to wonder as well. Because like no one likes playing Blackburn against Terran. Like,
Yeah.
oh god,
Not even other Terran players.
not even other Terran players, you know. And we see what happens. We see why. But with that, congratulations to Kira. He moves on. Maybe a bit of a rocky start in that series, but my god, he looks so good in game 2 and game 3. Really, he was just missing the Ducklings there. That's all he needed. And he moves on to the quarterfinals to face Nice.